Hello YouTube, welcome back to the third installment of 10 life-changing ideas. Part 3 now. Alright, so, like the other two videos, you may not find these ideas life-changing, but I think that they're at least intriguing. So, the first one is, you aren't you. Now what do I mean by that? I mean that you aren't your body, right? If I think about it, I'm not my hand, right? If I cut off my hand, that doesn't mean like a part of me is also gone, right? If I cut off my arm, that also doesn't mean a part of me is gone. So I'm not physically my body. I'm not my brain either, because that's a part of my body. Like, you can cut chunks of my brain out, and I'll be relatively fine. So, what am I, right? It's like, you're not your physical body, which is what we can clearly see, right? We can clearly see the physical body, right? And honestly, I honestly don't really know what we are. Like, we're not our body. We're not our mind either. So what the hell are we, right? Like, let me expand more on the second point. Like, you aren't your mind, right? Your mind does things that you can't actually control. For example, thoughts come into your mind. Like, thoughts just pop out of nowhere. And then sometimes they'll leave you thinking, like, where the hell did this come from? Right? It's like, you are not your thoughts. You're not your body. So what the hell are you? Right? It's like, I don't know, man. It's just, you aren't you. The second is a spin-off of, you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with, you know, that quote. And instead, it is, you are the average of the content you spend the most time on. Right? Because nowadays, most people spend most of their time just like browsing YouTube, watching Netflix, you know, going on TikTok. So they're spending most of their time on these platforms, these social media platforms. Their behaviors and thoughts are being influenced by the platforms, and so you become more and more like what you view. So, what type of content do you watch? Right? Like, do you watch a lot of political stuff? Do you watch a lot of sports? I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that I don't have, but I'd be willing to bet a lot of money that you have changed because of the content you have watched. Especially with political stuff, right? You can get down into like a rabbit hole of like going left or right. It's like, bro, rabbit holes all everywhere. Right? But simply put, the content that you watch influences who you are, right? So what kind of person do you want to be? And from that, what kind of content would you therefore watch? Would you therefore consume? The third idea is, there are relatively few people in the world that are actually truly evil. Most people who do evil things that we label and deem as like bad things are either just plain idiots, or they think they're doing something right, that they think they're doing something good. Most people are like that. You know, it's not like your friend just out of nowhere decided to not do the trash at all. It's like, no. Okay, maybe that's not evil, but like, he probably has a good reason. Good reason is probably like, oh, I forgot about it, or something like. But it's usually not malevolent. It's usually not a malevolent reason. It's like, the reason's not gonna be, oh, I didn't do it because you did something to me and I want some payback. It's like, no, that doesn't happen. There are truly few people in the world that are actually truly evil. Most people are doing things misguidedly. They think that they're doing right, when in fact, perhaps they don't know everything. Perhaps they don't know all the information that they should know. Perhaps they're so consumed by this idea that they just keep on going with it. Perhaps they're so convinced that they're right that they can't see any other perspectives. But over and over again, it's probably not malevolent. The fourth idea is from Rob Henderson, and it's the idea that not holding the door is a straight line to beating your wife. Sounds pretty tame until the last part, right? It sounds that got extreme real fast. But it's the idea that there is sort of like a continuum of behavior towards women as men, and it's like there is a physical asymmetry and also a mental and emotional asymmetry. Everything's asymmetrical between men and women. But it's the idea that if you throw out chivalry, right? If you throw that out, you're essentially throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Because not holding the door is on the line that leads directly to not beating your wife. It's a part of the same thing. That's chivalry. You get rid of one part of chivalry, you get rid of the other parts as well. Which is the reason why I think it's stupid that chivalry ever was outcast, because you throw away, quote, good behavior towards women, and you throw away all of it, right? You throw away just simply holding the door, and that leads down the line towards more extreme acts towards women. And it's like, if you think about it, fathers who don't teach their sons to be chivalrous, those sons then don't become chivalrous in any sort of way. Now, of course, there's so many other factors, right? It's not like a single factor. It's multifactorial. But chivalry is a big part of protecting women. And if you throw it away, well, good luck. Number 5 is how to maximize the pleasure you get from any vacation. And it's something I took from Tim Ferriss. And so basically what this dude does is he plans vacations years in advance. And it's for a reason, because literally the most pleasure you will get from that vacation is when you're daydreaming about it, when you're dreaming about it, when you are thinking about it, you're thinking about how good it's gonna be. Not when you're actually on the vacation, which is, I mean, after knowing that, it's so obvious. Now, I see it all the time. It's like, so many people complain on their vacation. It's like, yeah, the vacation's never going to be as good as you imagined it to be. It's never. It will never live up to your imagination. When you're on the beach, there will always be some sand in your toes. The cocktail won't be as cold as you'd like. The sun's a little too bright. There's always going to be something that is not perfect. And so, if you're to think about this, the most pleasure you will get on a vacation is not during it, but it's before it. It's when you are dreaming about it, when you are desiring it the most. That's when you get the most dopamine. That's when you get the most pleasure from it. Number 6 is a quote from Derek Sivers. And it's, if it isn't a hell yeah, it's a no. And I think this is a very good heuristic whenever you want to decide to do something. Right? If you don't immediately want to say yes to do it, you probably just don't want to do it. Now, of course, there are going to be some instances where this is not the case, but for the majority of the cases, if it isn't a hell yeah, it's a no. Okay? Say a friend invites you, and you're feeling a little like, do I want to go or do I not? It's probably a no. Alright? If you need a debate for 5 minutes in your head, it's a no. Ooh, number 7 is a little controversial. Women try to control women's sexuality more than men. The thing is, women slut shame women more than men do. And if you think about it logically, right, why would a dude ever slut shame a girl? Right? As men, I think we all know that we like sex. So why would we engage in an activity that would limit our sexual access? It just doesn't make sense. We don't slut shame. Women do. At least more than us. And in some polling by YouGov, for the poll for... Oh, bro, I'm just fucking dying, bro. In a poll for legal prostitution, 50% of women said no, while 30% said yes. As for men, only 36% of men refused, said no, while 51% of men said yes. So there's a disparity because the majority of women don't want legal prostitution, but the majority of men do. Now that clearly says something. Number 8 is a bomber one. It's by Alex Hormozi. You've already achieved goals you said would make you happy. You've already achieved goals you said that would make you happy. You have already done things that you told yourself in the past, after I do this, I'll be happy. And then you did the thing and you literally forgot about it the moment right after. You didn't become happy then. You're not happy now. So what does that say about all the goals that you want to achieve that you tell yourself, I'll be happy after this? It's false. You won't. You won't be happy. Because that's how your brain works. In your brain, simply put, there's like 2 sort of modes. And I'm not talking about like sympathetic versus parasympathetic. There is the mode for desire, for motivation, for getting things. And there is the mode of being satisfied. Dopamine is the chief neurotransmitter for searching, for moving, for motivation. Whereas serotonin is the primary transmitter for satisfaction. You're sated. And so every time you want to achieve more goals, you're in this mode of always wanting more, never being satisfied. Rarely will you ever in your entire life be in both modes at the same time. Wanting more, but also satisfied. Because they seem like polar opposites, right? How can you be satisfied when you're wanting more? Right? It's very weird. Number 9 is what you say you want isn't necessarily what you actually want. And this goes towards stated versus revealed preferences. Like, I can say that I like certain things, but that doesn't mean I'll actually like it. It means I thought I liked it, but I actually don't. Like, how many women now have stated that they wanted to be a boss bitch? And then, after a couple years of doing it, they fold on it. Like, how many women now complain about work when 50 years ago all they wanted was to work? Now, of course, it's different generations, right? But they're still indoctrinated into the same beliefs. Right? This belief of, oh, you go, girl, get a job and work your ass off. And then every single day, women complain about their work, about the world that they live in, when that is your own decision. You did this to yourself. You wanted freedom. You wanted independence. Now, I'm not saying that that's all bad. I'm not saying, like, stay in the kitchen, like, don't get a job. You shouldn't get a job. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that if you want independence, if you want freedom, you have to take responsibility for it. You don't get freedom. You don't get independence without responsibility. This entire thing with, like, liberating countries into democracy. It's like, okay, that's a good ideal and all, But a country that becomes a democracy with people that don't know anything, that with people that can't function as a democracy, is probably better off without a democracy. Otherwise, it's going to be pure chaos, right? If you democratize a country full of poor villagers who haven't gone to school at all, haven't even gone to like their primary education, it's like these people don't know anything. How do you expect them to rule a country, to govern a country? You can't. And we think that democracy is like really great and all, and like everyone should go for it. And I do believe that democracy is the best form of government that we have. But it's not perfect. It's not. And we should know the flaws in it. But anyway, back to my freaking point. How many times have you flipped your script because what you wanted didn't fit the reality? Right? How many times have you told people, I want this, and then maybe you get it, and then you think, I actually don't want it? How many people have achieved so much wealth, so much fame, only to realize that they don't want that kind of life anymore, but they can't escape it anymore because what's done is done. Like, once you become famous, that's a genie out of the bottle. You can't put it back in. So, what you say you want is not necessarily what you actually want. And finally, this one comes from Chris Williamson, and it's post-content clarity. To play on post-nut clarity, but it's based off the idea of, after a session of watching or consuming content, how do you feel? Like, do you want to go outside and spend time with nature, touch grass, and send grateful messages to your friends? Do you feel like you've learned anything? Or do you feel outraged? Do you feel like you can't trust the world? Do you feel like you've been betrayed by people? Do you feel like all these other people in the world are so stupid? Well, post-content clarity, this idea it's pointing to, how do you want to feel after you consume content? Do you want to feel negative? Or do you want to be more positive? Do you want to be a greater light in the world? And this is one of the ways I cut out necessary content. Even though it might have seemed necessary, but like, things that don't make me feel good. Especially content when I am susceptible to be putting in like so much time without a sufficient ability to control myself. I don't want that. It's not worth it. And tying back to how content changes you, you become more like what you watch. But is that actually who you want to be? Is that how you want to feel after you watch content? Probably not. And that was 10 life-changing ideas. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned something from this. Hopefully. I mean, it's 10 pretty big ideas, in my opinion. So I hope you've learned at least one new idea. And if you have, drop a like, subscribe, and I will see you next time.